Nation.
SMD Law is the official law firm of the Spartan Nation. Check them out on the interwebs at smdalaw.com or at 866-529-3537. No matter where you are in the state of Michigan, Upper Peninsula, Lower Peninsula, it doesn't matter. They have an office near you. So whether you need to send a letter to an annoying neighbor, or you're a criminal and you need defense, maybe you just have problems with elder law, check them out, smdalaw.com today. The official law firm of the Spartan Nation. Call them first. Then you act.
Welcome back, Spartan Nation Radio. We now bring in Spartan Nation senior writer, the great Johnny Shop. You know him, I know him, we all know him, we love him each and every week. He joins us on the State of the Spartans. We're talking all basketball right now as they head to the Final Four, where I believe Michigan State will be cutting down the nets as the national champion on Monday night. John, how are you, buddy?
I am still in some shock and thrilled that we have witnessed the biggest upset in Michigan State Spartan basketball history. Michigan State is headed back to the Final Four. What an incredible difference a year makes, and what an improbable path this team has taken. They keep on doing more than anybody else thinks they can.
I agree with you. Absolutely agree. So this is your segment. Tell us about the team. What's the state of the Spartans?
They're on the moon. They're on the moon right now, but I tell you what, in a couple of days, they're going to start thinking to themselves, we may not be done yet. Let's take a look back real quick, though, at the key stats of the game against Duke. 42 rebounds to 31 rebounds for the Spartans. Duke has the edge there. The turnovers, really the big story of the game, 17 for Duke, 7 for Michigan State. Those numbers seem like they're flipped around. And you do got to give Duke credit, especially on their defensive end, for doing what they did to clean up work and kind of stay in the game and keep a shot to win. Obviously, 1-point game, everybody had a shot to win. But what an incredible group of minutes. What an incredible finish. As you have Tillman with the bucket, you have Goins with the rebound, you have Goins with the three, you have Cassius Winston stirring it. And after a fall, and after a school year where so many bad passes were thrown by Michigan State players, we saw so many bad passes. The best pass of the year is Xavier Tillman leading Cassius Winston to perfection, and he's running out the clock. How about that? For the year of the passes that Spartan fans had to sit through, the best one came to get him in the Final Four.
John, this team is amazing. Talk about this team just literally as a team, the sum of their parts. I mean, to me, Duke this year was Michigan State last year. They have the high-profile lottery picks. This year, the Michigan State team won.
That is the thing. Let people forget. There's a couple things. Number one, this is still a really talented Michigan State team. But there's a humongous but. You're down 2 starters, plus a third starter's playing with one hand, and he's limited off the bench. And Nick Ward looked extremely limited against Duke. You saw at least 2 or 3 times where he was going after a ball with one hand. There's no team in the tournament, there's no team left in the tournament that could beat Duke down 2 starters. But you also flash back to what's happened to this team since the last time they made the Final Four. 2016, the Spartans were better than we thought. They were odds-on favorite to win the Big Dance when it started. They were the best team in the country, and they got done by the ridiculous scheduling of the Big Ten tournament and having to play early in the week, and they tripped and fell. Had they won that game against Middle Tennessee State, probably looking at a team that would have won the national title. So that one was wild. 2018, Michigan State's in the same spot again. They are the odds-on favorite to win the entire thing. They have a bye week after the Big Ten exhibition tournament. And for the first time in the Izzo era, they really beat themselves, jacking 37 threes, leaving you to wonder what's going to happen now. These lottery picks are leaving. The point guard play let them get 37 three-point shots. What happens from here? Then you have this team, and you have the emergence of really special players. Right now, I believe Xavier Tillman is in that rare air with Mateen Cleaves and Draymond Green, that extremely special air of special, absolutely special talent and play in the Tom Izzo era. And I also think that Cassius Winston is making his way up there. There's a long way between now and the Final Four here in Atlanta next year. but you would want to pencil Michigan State in as a real possibility if those two guys are back. And if they should be chasing that again and getting there, you'd have to think that Cassius Winston is a guy that may have elevated himself to the rarest air in Michigan State basketball history. It is very, very rare to get up there. But we have seen this emergence, and it is just something unreal. When you look at the intangibles, when you look at what players on this team do away from the ball, when you look at the difference-making plays, you just go through the roster, and this is what you see. You see Goins, you see Henry, Tillman, McQuaid, Winston. You can come up with something that they all did to make the difference. They all did to make a difference against Duke, and, oh, man, obviously the whole tournament, I mean, against Minnesota, for example, just rolling. So there's a lot there. And this team, when you really compare that to where it was a year ago with the incredible disappointment and justifiable disappointment to where they are right now, you got to say this is a big-time hat tip. You got to say they earned every bit of it. And, yes, they are the favorites going into this Final Four. And we'll talk about it. They have a huge advantage from really the end of the game Sunday night until Saturday afternoon. They got an advantage over the other three teams. They do not know what they're dealing with going to a Final Four. Michigan State basketball certainly does.
Your thoughts, John, and I think this is an interesting topic. I want to dig in with you a little bit. Prior to this season, you heard me sit down with Izzo, and I told him I thought this team at the end of the season would be better than last year's, the sum of their parts. Yep. I had a lot of people disagree with me. Now, no one went over the top. No one was a jerk about it. And you know what? I'm not God. People can disagree with me. But I think we're starting to see what I saw. Did you agree with me at the time, John, or did you think I was a little out there?
No, I definitely thought this team would go further than the last one because the last one beat themselves and stubbed their toe. I was certainly unsure of what kind of development and progress you would see from Cassius Winston or from Nick Ward. And obviously nobody could foresee the injuries. Look, the guys that were injured were not chopped liver. Josh Langford, I believe, is a high school McDonald's All-American, 4 or 5-star player. He's going to be a real factor next year. Real factor for this basketball team. Nick Ward goes down. No joke either. And Kyle Ernst goes down late when he's playing well. He's playing at a very competitive a high-level Big Ten player. So I didn't think you were crazy at that time. I definitely thought the team was going to get further than when they stubbed their toes last year, but I did not know or foresee that they really had something cooking. Now, early into the season, when we got close to holiday time, or maybe not even too far into the Langford injury or right before then, it looked to me like there was a Final Four team in the making. And I saw that because of point guard play. I saw that because of the special intangibles that separate this team. They got so many guys with intangibles, so many guys with high basketball IQs. They don't do as much dumb stuff or make as many mistakes as we've seen in the past. I'll give you a late game example yesterday. Tillman's got foul troubles. There's probably a handful of baskets where it's not that he let the Duke guys score, but he protected himself to keep himself in the game rather than doing something dumb, getting another foul or two, and taking himself out of it. Those things, I really think it's the mental game that's what separated this team. You combine that with experience and some clutch action, and that's why you have a team that should be favored to probably going to be favored to win the weekend, and I would expect we're going to see a real tight game with the University of Virginia if they should get to Monday night.
John, I'm not sure if you saw the interview, but I asked Tom Izzo this weekend, and people can go find the video at SpartanNation.com. I said last year's team was a victim of not all, but certainly some journalistic malfeasance and malpractice. Yep. But you saw this team this year display a mental toughness that they've not seen at Michigan State in a while. And I asked him if he thought going through last year helped it, and he did. Do you think last year helped this team develop an edge that they hadn't had previously?
No doubt. Look, no doubt. That team knew they were really favored to win everything, and they were well on their way. They knew they were favored to win everything, and they didn't make really the mental plays. They didn't manage themselves mentally well enough against Syracuse to survive. I think that left a scar. It left a scar. There's a scar on Matt McQuaid. There's a scar on Cassius Winston. There's a scar on everybody that was on that team. It's not a bad thing, but it's what do you do with that scar? Do you learn from it? Do you adjust to it. And that's exactly what happened. So as raw and painful as that was, and I can't tell you how many times myself, Hondo, I'd walk around the middle of the day and say to myself, 37 threes. I cannot believe we did that as a team. How did they do that? And I'm just a fan. These guys are thinking about this all year. They learned how to manage it. They learned how to live with it. They learned how to not put a dressing or put makeup on the scar. They addressed it. They worked through it. And as a result, they come out the other side. And I'm telling you, they got more out of this season than anybody thought they would. Every time we think they're done and there's nothing else they could do. We talked about this a handful of weeks ago. I thought if they get a chance to play in the regional final, that would be like an overachievement. And that was a best case scenario. They got more to give. They got more to give. And now they're in a situation where they're going to be going into a weekend with two first timers. And the last time UVA was in the Final Four, I think I was a kid, and it was a completely different sport. And Ralph Sampson was dominating the paint. So this, all of a sudden, as the week gets going here, they're going to be transitioning to, hey, we're not necessarily done. We can actually go ahead and win this tournament.
Yeah, they're the Blue Bloods now. They're the ones that should win it. We're talking to Spartan Nation senior writer Johnny Shop. But I want to ask you about Xavier Tillman. This kid is emerging as a star. I know for a fact he's got NBA people now watching him closely. Are we watching an emergence of a new star?
Oh, yeah. On a national stage. Just look at the tape of the last few minutes of the game against Duke, and you see what you need to see. But we've seen this now for more than a month. Look at the plays that closed out at least one of the Michigan wins. Look at what he did on the biggest stage of the sport so far this year. 19 points, 9 rebounds, just one short of a double-double, as was Kenny Goins. Xavier Tillman is a special player. You could see it brewing. You heard about it a little bit before he got on campus. You saw flashes in year one. What he's doing is combining that potential with execution in the clutch, and it's absolutely amazing. The inbound pass that he made to Winston, the wink and the move that he kind of indicated, I saw it live having no idea where it was going. Everybody's seen it since. That stuff's going down in history. So I think what you have here is one of the rare guys. Izzo talked about how lucky you are if you get a special guy once in your career. He's had two that were really kind of cut from a little bit of a different cloth. I believe Xavier Tillman is the third guy. He may have another one on the team right now, but this is a guy that should he return, I would hope and expect that he would, to Michigan State next year. You're going to see some real unbelievable five-tool player, if you will, a guy that is going to make plays away from the ball, on the ball, defending, rebounding, passing, scoring. I think this is a guy that's going to be putting together a very special package.
Yes, I agree with you. No argument. And I think this is a kid that, before our eyes, is becoming a great star. John, I want you to think with me for a moment. Nick Ward, I'm talking with NBA people. They still don't believe that he's played himself into an NBA first-round draft pick. I talked to 3 of them.
Sure.
They don't believe that there's anything he can really do at the combine to help him. I still think that if I had to pick, he's probably going to go. But if Nick Ward should come back, I want you to tell me, what do you think of a next year team where Nick Ward at the 5, Xavier Tillman at the 4, Joshua Langford at the 3, Aaron Henry at the 2, Cassius Winston at the 1, Gabe Brown, Thomas Kithier, Kyle Arns, all backups. And, of course, oh, by the way, you got some guys that have already been here. And, oh, by the way, some incoming freshmen.
Yeah, if that's the lineup, what you're looking at, it's going to be really the highest set of expectations that Michigan State basketball's ever had. That's no knock to the 2006 team, to any of the other teams, 2011 team. That's no knock to any of those teams, but it's just in modern time, there's going to be more expectations and more excitement about them than any other team. And I do think that chemistry is such a key. So if Nick Ward were to return, he would need to return with absolutely the right attitude and the selfless attitude I think that he's displayed thus far. If there's one thing that can threaten Michigan State during this week as they prepare, it's probably chemistry. as long as they keep playing for each other first, playing for the name on the jersey, playing for the guys from the team last year and from the program in the past that didn't get to this point, they're going to keep on rolling well. They've got to make sure just to keep that in check. And it's not to finger point at Ward. He just happens to be the guy in the unique spot right now. But, I think the re-aggravation of the injury probably makes it a little bit easier for him to accept the role coming off the bench because, he fell hard on that thing. And you just can't play basketball with one hand too well. So should that lineup return to Michigan State next year, everybody is once again going to be expecting them to go to the Final Four. Of course, it's going to be in Atlanta next year, and they will be the odds-on favorite to cut those nets down. I do think that team will handle that expectation better than any we've seen in the past.
Spartan Nation senior writer John Schott will be back. Senior writer John Schott will be back. Senior writer John